You know you can't say that on a YouTube video while you're holding one of these, right? This guy. Hey there, folks. How you doing today? Welcome back to the channel. Please bear with any background racket that you might hear throughout this production. There's stuff going on outside the studio that might be heard in the background. Let's not let it stand in the way. And if I can keep myself from saying things that will get the thought police after me, we might get through on this take. Out here on the table in front of me is something that is familiar to many of you that have been following along lately here on our channel. For those that haven't, this is my Ruger M77 Hawkeye guide gun chambered in 30-06. We have an entire series of videos featuring this rifle here on the channel. It is a crowd favorite. This is one of those rifles. It was a guilty pleasure. This is something that I always wanted, finally spent the money to get. Was not immediately happy with because of some poor performance. Through a series of trial and error steps taken, we now have this rifle shooting extremely well, and as such, I have started to do some of the things that I had originally planned to do with it when I first bought it. As Steinbeck said, and Burns before him, the best laid plans of mice and men oft go awry. I had intended on making a full production concerning this next video on the rifle. I was going to talk about these things. I was going to talk about this ammunition right here. I was going to show range footage and footage from our hunt. I was hopefully going to have a trophy to show off that I had harvested with this rifle, but the last couple of weeks stood up and kicked me in the teeth and said, "You're not going to do that." So all of the plans that I had made concerning that were dashed to pieces, and you're going to have to settle for a tabletop video while I describe and talk about these cool leather accessories that we have on this rifle. Some of you may be very familiar with these and know exactly what they are. If you're not, allow me a minute to introduce the fellow that made these. If you're familiar with Mason Outdoors, I believe it used to be called Mason Leather, and then they changed it to Mason Outdoors. It's ran by a fellow named Lee Mason here in Texas. He does a lot of ballistic performance work with various rifle calibers and cartridges, putting together data in a very consistent and scientific manner so that the end users of stuff like that, you or I, could benefit from watching his videos and making informed decisions on the types of ammunition we're going to purchase for our hunting rifles. I really do appreciate the work that that man does, because what he's doing is not cheap, and it requires a great deal of time and effort to make those productions. That being said, one of the things that he talks about in each and every video is his leather accessories that he makes for your hunting rifles. And he displays them at the beginning of the videos in a very subdued and non-abrasive manner. And I sit back and I said, you know what? I would really like to support this guy for the work that he's doing. I've been wanting to get a nice sling and a cartridge cuff for this rifle, and I can think of no better place to get one than from Mason Leather Outdoors. So I reached out to him, told him what I was after. He told me he could make it, and he's set to work to do that. I will throw up some still pictures of it here in just a second so you can see those. This particular cartridge cuff is done in the charcoal color. It's embossed here on the front with 30-06. It holds 5 30-06 cartridges. And I opted for the parachute cord binding for the bottom of it there. He also offers leather if you would prefer that. Over on the back side of it, you'll see his white-tailed deer design. And I opted to have him put my initials on either side of the deer head because I plan on keeping this rifle forever. To go along with his leather cartridge cuff, I purchased one of his extra wide, 1.25 inch wide Latigo leather slings. I got that one in black, which complements the charcoal colored cuff nicely. The hardware on the cuff as well as on the sling is done in an antique brass, so I purchased antique brass sling swivels to match it. Now, keep in mind, if you purchase the wider sling, the 1.25 inch, you're going to have to pay a little more to get sling swivels. Standard sling swivels are only 1 inch wide. The 1¼ inch ones cost about twice what the standard ones do, and then I paid a couple of dollars extra to get them in antique brass to match the rest of the hardware on the sling and cartridge cuff. This sling is made out of Latigo leather, which is the same kind of leather that a premium set of bridle reins would be made out of. It's soft and pliable. It has a good amount of shock built into it, so if you're carrying your rifle over your shoulder and walking through rough terrain, the rifle bouncing on your shoulder is going to be cushioned a little bit more with this than it would with something like a nylon sling. Not only that, but the leather is so thick and pliable and heavy duty that it's probably going to give you a lifetime of service. Now, I have this one taken up several inches in length. I have it drawn to where it fits the rifle snugly when I hold it over my shoulder. I'll show you a picture of that right here. Now, for reference, folks, I am 6'1" and about 250 pounds with several inches of leftover sling material after I adjusted it to fit me. And for reference on that, I actually have the sling all the way out here on this barrel band swivel. It's not attached to the fore end where the other swivel goes. So there is plenty of room in this sling for most applications and most people, regardless of how big you are. If you're a little bit smaller person, there are still several inches of take up that you can reduce the overall length of the sling. So for example, if you were putting it on a youth sling, you could tighten it up and let that sling out a little bit every couple of years as that young person grew, and then it would fit them their entire life. So that's really cool. The sling comes with 4 of these Chicago screws. I opted for an extra package of them, and I'm glad I did because I was able to put one in each of the loopholes here where I had taken up the slack in the sling. Completely unnecessary, but I thought it looked kind of cool. Now, this sling is 1¼ inch wide, which is wider than the standard model. And I did that on purpose. I wanted a nice wide strap across my shoulder. I have some issues with that shoulder, and I didn't want something that was going to wear down into that collarbone and cause me pain later in the day. So I went with the wider one, and I'm glad that I did. Now, that being said, it does not come with the sling swivels. Lee recommends Uncle Mike's swivels. I was not able to find a set of Uncle Mike's swivels in my local sporting goods store that were wide enough to fit on this sling. They do make them. They did not have them in stock. Just be aware, if you go for the optional thicker sling, the wider sling swivels cost about twice what the 1-inch ones do, but the 1-inch ones will not fit this sling. I went ahead and I ordered a set of Detroit leather sling swivels because I wanted them in antique brass to match the rest of the hardware on the sling and on the cuff, and I'm glad I did that. They complement each other nicely. If you are looking at this and you think, wow, this sling looks really good, I'd like to have one of those cartridge cuffs or a sling like that and put it on my rifle, or I'd like to get that for my dad for Christmas or something along those lines, I have good news for you. If you look over on Mason Leather's website right now, they're having a 37% off sale this week. So if you're thinking that this is something that you might want to get somebody, now would be a really good time to do that. In the length of time that I've been aware of his channel, this is the best sale that I've seen so far. Now, keep in mind, if you're going to do it for a Christmas present, I ordered my sling and cartridge cuff on October 16th and got them on November 25th. So it took about 40 days to get the stuff in. So if you order it as a Christmas present, it's probably not going to show up by Christmas. But if you're ordering it for your dad and you tell him, hey, Dad, look what I got you, I'm sure he wouldn't mind waiting for it. They really are top quality. And I don't think you could go wrong getting a set. So if you weren't familiar with these, I invite you to go check out Lee's website. If you have one of his cartridge cuffs or one of his slings, let me know down below. Let's keep the conversation going in the comments section. Until next time, take care and God bless.